So I wanted to talk to you about a famous Orach Chaim. I want to sort of share with you a famous Orach Chaim. Orach Chaim is one of the great commentators on Chumash. If you open up the Koros Gedolos, you see the Orach Chaim all the time. And he was, they called him the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. He had a special position in Klal Yisrael. Not many people would be called HaKadosh, but he was called the Orach Chaim HaKadosh because of his special spiritual status. And he shared with us an idea that has become very fundamental in the discussions within the walls of the Beis Medrash about Shavuos, and about getting ready for Shavuos. And it's actually a pasuk in Yisro, because obviously Shavuos is the yontif of which we commemorate, and we try to hopefully recreate the idea of accepting the Torah. The Torah was given to us in Vav Sivan. Vav Sivan is described in detail in Parshas Yisro. And the Orach Chaim said that there's a specific pasuk that talks about three aspects of what it took for Klal Yisrael to merit the receiving of the Torah. Three different aspects. And again, if you share this at the Shabbos table, at the Yom Tov table, it would be a very nice idea. Okay, hopefully you're taking notes about the shmooze. And I think they encapsulate exactly almost what a Jew has to be their entire lives, but especially as we approach this yontif. We're almost, we're already at the 48th day of the Omer, and so it's a little bit too late to do what they did in Kelm. In Kelm, literally, there are 48 ways to accept the Torah. The Pirkei Avos teaches us, and the Rambam goes through it. And actually, Reb Noach Weinberg became famous, the head of Eshet Torah. Zechet Tzadik Levracha, he was famous for incorporating the 48 ways into his whole process of making people from Eshet Torah. He's certainly very famous for making so many Bali Tshuva. And the Alter of Kelm says that what a Jew should do is literally every single day focus on one of those 48 ways. And on the 49th day, that's what they did in Kelm. In the yeshiva in Kelm, the famous yeshiva in Kelm in the late 1800s, that was run by the Alter of Kelm, they would actually work every day on the 48 ways to get to the day 40 to 48. So today they're working on the 48th way. I didn't look up what's the 48th way, but that will be today's focus in Kelm. And tomorrow, which is Shabbos, tonight and tomorrow, which is the 49th day, they would review in one day all of the 48 ways. So meaning what? That this is a time to get ready for Shavuot. So now it's literally, we're at the end of the road, and we have to try to do as much as we can to get ready. And the Orach Chaim says like this. I'll read you the pasuk, and he says, this is the pasuk that defines a Jew's proper preparation for Kabbalas Torah. What did the Jewish people have to do to receive the Torah? And the pasuk says, it's right after Revi in Yisro. It says, Vayisum Refidim. They traveled from Refidim. Vayavo Midbar Sinai. And they came to Midbar Sinai, Vayachenu Bamidbar, Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Ahar. And they dwelt together by the mountain, by Har Sinai, ready to receive the Torah. So I'm going to go through I'm going to do the relatively quickly. Obviously, we can spend a lot on each of the three prerequisites. But number one, Vayisum Refidim, Rabbi Say. Refidim represented, that's where Amalek took advantage of the situation. Vayisum Refidim comes from the word Rifyah. There was a weakening of our commitment to Torah. We did have mitzvos already before Ma'amad Har Sinai. Before this great eventful day, we actually had mitzvahs. So we had Torah. There was some learning to be done. But that learning became weak. Vayisum Refidim. The Jewish people left that attitude, that lackadaisical attitude, as I always joke about the neck touching the chair as we slowly slide into our seats and pretty much ready to take a nap, as opposed to having that intensity and focus of getting ready to learn. Torah is such an amazing thing. We speak about this a lot, but Rabbi said Torah is not an intellectual endeavor. Torah is a spiritual endeavor. You need a head for it. You need a brain for it. But if you don't approach Torah from a spiritual point of view of knowing that this is the truth, this is what God has given us to lead our lives and to open up our minds to the truth, it does not have the impact it's supposed to have. So number one, it's Vayisum Refidim. If you want to really receive the Torah, you got to do it wide awake, bright and early. They came to Har Sinai Right early in the morning, it's true, maybe we slept that night, we were a little bit late, the famous Medrash says, and that's why we sleep. We stay up all night because we want to make up for sleeping the night before. But at the end of the day, it's Vayisem Refidim. For Torah to be able to be received by Klal Yisrael, there needs to be a unique perspective about Torah. If Torah is an intellectual endeavor, we sit there, as they say in Lithuania, these secular Jews would actually sit there, light up a cigar Shabbos afternoon on a lounge chair, and take a sefer and start reading Gemara. That's Torah. Is that called learning Torah? Absolutely not. Learning Torah is uniquely a spiritual relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's why the passion and the focus and the energy that we bring every single day to learning is critical. And you'll see certain people, they could be geniuses, they will never become Talmidei Chachamim. Because they don't have that unique relationship with Torah. If it's, you can, I don't know, they used to have, before Art School came along, you guys were already born into the Art School generation. Before Art School came along, what did a Jew do if he wanted to see a translation of the Gemara?
Ask his rabbi.
What?
Ask his rabbi.
Well, if the rabbi didn't know every single fancy Aramaic difficult word, what would he do? So they used to have Yiddish translations way back in Europe. Okay, it was but in America, what would you do? So it was something called, now it's like almost irrelevant anymore. Okay. Art Scroll even came before Google. So before Art Scroll, you didn't have Google.
What?
Okay, yeah, I know, it's hard to imagine. But what you did have was Sansino. Okay, Sansino was, and if you check some of you, maybe your grandfather's libraries, you will still find some places with a Sansino Shas. Okay, very often they were read, and there was an English translation. It doesn't compare to the Art Scroll at all. But what's unique about Sansino is a lot of the people who translated the Gemara, they were not even religious people. I'm not even sure, maybe most of them were Jews, but I'm not sure they were even all Jews. Because in order to translate the Talmud, you have to be an expert in Aramaic language, and you can translate the Talmud. So you had all these people written the front of the book. Now, one of them was a rabbi. They're all professor this, professor that, with a bunch of fancy letters of their PhDs after their titles. But you can tell by the way they translated the Shas that it wasn't the Talmud Chacham translating it. They made a lot of mistakes. Doesn't compare to the Art Scroll translation. The Art Scroll translation were translated by people who had a reverence for Torah. These were wonderful Talmidei Chachamim who knew what they were translating. It wasn't just another work. It wasn't translating Rahman al-Tzana or Lahavda Alef Avdallah's Crime and Punishment into English or some other classic work in literature. And that's not what Torah is. So that's number one. Vayisem Refidim, Rabbi Isai. If we want to accept Torah on Sunday morning properly, if we want to daven with a sense of fervor and appreciation for what God gave us, we have to try to develop that passion for Torah, that running away from Refidim, not to sort of another day, and and it's difficult, and you schlep, and you're this, and you're that, and you have your eyes that have closed. Excitement. Don't fall into that malaise of not taking Torah seriously. That's number one. But I want to just focus on the other two because the other two really highlight something very incredible. And that is that Rabbi said when it comes to Torah, not only is it about the intellectual, to some degree obviously the intellectual process of thinking and working on Torah. Not only is it about my passion for Torah, my love for Torah, my appreciation that's coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not only is it leaving Refidim, but there are two other dimensions. And it comes to this, and it leads right into this week's parsha as well. Vayom voyu midbar sina vayachnu b'midbar. Where was Klal Yisrael in their emotional state? What do you need to be like? What's your mindset when you want to receive Torah? You need to be like a midbar, Rabbi Isai. This is, again, where life, we're living in a world where you don't get this message. I don't want to sound, whenever I contrast the outside world, they say I'm trying to be negative. I'm not trying to be negative here. I'm not trying to tell you that the outside world is terrible, even though maybe it sounds that way. In many ways, it is terrible. But I'm not trying to say it's terrible to tell you that, therefore, if you're part of the outside world, you're terrible. Chas v'sholom. I tell you all the time, you guys are great. You guys are the future leaders of Klal Yisrael. But if you don't see the contrast between the Torah's view and the secular view, then you're going to be missing out on an important idea. So please don't take this that I'm chas v'sholom being negative on you. I'm being negative about the wrong value system that we get from the outside world. And that value system is very often numero uno. Okay, take care of yourself. Okay, it's about me. Okay, we see it in sports, we see it in so many places, we see it in politics. Who wins the elections? The guys who can brag about themselves the most. The guys who have the biggest egos. The guys who stand up on the table after hitting a game-winning shot instead of walking off like a mensch and just, they're Superman and they're standing there pumping their chests on the table waiting for the whole adulation from the world. It's all about me. Really? It's all about you? Is that really what this world is about? How about like walking away nice and humbly because Baruch Hu gave you this chus of hitting a clutch shot in the last second of the game? And what are you doing and feel like you're this big hero over here? You should be happy, but a little humility. Humility is, Rabbi say, a unique quality. It's not like nice. Today, he's a humble guy. That's like really nice. From the Torah's point of view, humility is not nice. Humility is necessary. In fact, no quality trait is as important as humility. And if you want to know who is going to become great in Torah, do you need passion? Absolutely. You have to appreciate the beauty of Torah and know where it's coming from? Absolutely. But if you're some big shot who's always walking around saying, I'm going to outsmart that guy, and I have to get the best grade, and I got to do this, and I got to do that, and it's always about you, it'll not happen. Rav Matzes Yo Solomon made a very interesting observation, Rabbi Say. He's the mashgiach in Lakewood, and he spent most of his life in Manchester, in England. And he came over to America and became the mashgiach in the famous Lakewood Yeshiva. I don't know how many thousands of students they have now, but it's the preeminent Makom Torah really in the world as far as numbers, okay? And as far as stature, it's really literally one of the preeminent places in the entire world. And they've pretty much made a whole city of Torah. It's an incredible thing, Lakewood, New Jersey. So he made an interesting observation. He said, why is it that I go to these Mishnayos Balpeh contests, and this was in England, Manchester, London, whatever, they have a lot of Jews over there, and it's Baruch Hashem is a beautiful thing. They have Mishnayos Balpeh contests. And he says, you know what? He said, and I was in the room when he spoke about this in Los Angeles. He came, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, and he said, I said, you know what? I'm going to make a mental observation. I'm going to follow these kids. I'm going to see what happens with these 13 and 14-year-old geniuses who know 2, 3, 4, 5,000 Mishnayos by heart. Okay? They can rattle off anything. They have photographic memories. It's incredible. Let's see what's going to be. And he noticed that practically everyone amounted to pretty much nothing in the realm of Torah. Disappointments. Every one of them come out. Practically. Everyone was a disappointment. He said, what's Pshat? He started thinking about it. And he came to the conclusion, this is what he shared. You might have a different interpretation. This is what I'll tell you, what he told us. When you take a 13-year-old kid, and you parade him on stage, and you make him out to be the next Gadol B'Yisrael, and you tell him all these wonderful things about who he is, and then he walks back into school the next day. And he starts hearing shir from his 8th grade Rebbe or his 9th grade Rebbe, and the Rebbe starts teaching Torah. What's this kid thinking? He's teaching me Torah. If he's a 9th grade Rebbe, how far did he go? He's not a big Rosh Yeshiva. He's a 9th grade Rebbe. I'm going to be Rosh Yeshiva, so I should listen to him. I'm smarter than him. I'm better than him. I'm on my way to becoming more accomplished than him. The minute you start injecting a little bit of gaiva into a person's mentality, haughtiness, I'm better than you, I got the pshat, you didn't get the pshat, I'm not going to tell you the pshat, I'm not going to share the pshat with you, I want to make sure I get a high grade than you, all that kind of competitive stuff that wants to put you on top of somebody else, that's poison for Torah. Torah will repel that, Rabbi Say. That literally is the antithesis of what Torah is supposed to be about. Vayachnu b'midbar. Why is Parshas Bamidbar? We're going to read Parshas Bamidbar tomorrow morning, the one Parsha right before Shavuos every single year. Why is Bamidbar before Shavuos every single year? Because a prerequisite to accepting the Torah is being like a midbar. What do you mean like a midbar? A midbar is empty. A midbar says, walk all over me. A desert is a very, very non-flamboyant kind of place. Just walk all over me. Just do whatever you want. It's not fancy. It's not self-aggrandizing. It's just simply there to serve people. If you want to step on me, walk over me. I mean, obviously you have to have some level of respect, but no gaiva. There's no gaiva in a midbar. Nobody ever got haughty being a nomad living in a desert. A desert is a sign of humility. Everybody say this is something, again, we don't hear a lot about. We hear about SAT scores. We hear about, what college you're going to. We hear about even what yeshiva you're going to. We hear about how many blot you covered and making siyum, and they're all important. But the one thing that almost doesn't get enough attention is, what about imidos? How sweet? Are you a sweet person? Are you ready to help somebody else? Are you ready to not put yourself first? Are you ready to give up of yourself to somebody else? Rabbi? Are you a midbar? If you're a midbar, the Rambam writes, it comes from the Gemara, Torah is compared to things that are low. Torah is compared to a midbar because a midbar has nothing fancy about it. Water is compared to Torah. Why is water compared to Torah, says the Rambam? Because water always goes down to its lowest level. And you'll see that when you get to Utah. Water always gathers in its lowest spot. Why? Because, well, there's gravitational forces obviously at play. But that's the nature of water. It sort of rolls down the mountain and it rests in its lowest possible place. That's a Talmud Chacham. The Talmud Chacham wants to accept Torah. You got to be self-effacing. You have to be not flamboyant. You have to be ready to give. And that's why the very last step and the third prerequisite in terms of receiving the Torah is Vayichan Shem Yisrael Neged Ahar. And you all know the Rashi, Vayichan. Why doesn't it say Vayachanu? What do you mean? It should say Vayachanu. They dwelt by the mountain. What do you mean Vayichan Shem Yisrael Neged Ahar? Vayichan is one person. That's one individual. They had 600,000 men. 3 million Jews were here. What do you mean Vayichan Shem Yisrael Neged Ahar? The answer is because they were like one. They're ready to help each other. When you're ready to help, when you're ready to see yourself as part of the overall group, when you're ready to give up of yourself to somebody else, Rabbi is saying, again, I've said this many times, the most amazing stories happen when you give of yourself. I'm going to tell you two. One's very amusing and one's unbelievably powerful and maybe a little bit scary as well. But the very amusing story, I say it almost every year, is a story I originally heard from Rabbi about a cab in Eretz Yisrael. And if you guys know anything about cabs in Eretz Yisrael, okay, at least, well, nowadays things are different, much more organized, and you don't run out of cabs nowadays. But in those days, they had like one station that would run a Sherut, a cab from Yerushalayim to Bnei Brak. And it would leave, they would like, I don't know, maybe every 15 minutes. And maybe they were running short one day. The bottom line is there are about 15 to 18 people, let's call it 18 people waiting for this cab to go from Yerushalayim to Bnei Brak, and the guy says, I'm the last cab driver. That's it. After I go, there's nobody else. What do you mean there's nobody else? We got 2 hours for Shabbos, I got to get a Bnei Brak. There's no way. There are 18 people, you got to get more cabs. There are no more cabs. That's it. I'm the last guy. And I've smoking my cigarette, and when I'm done, I'm going into my cab. Whoever's in my cab is in, whoever's not, I'm not going to sit there and decide who comes and who doesn't come. So whoever is in my cab, in about 3 minutes when I'm done with my cigarette, that's who's coming to Bnei Brak with me. If you're not in my cab, I'm sorry, we have nothing else to help you with. You'll have to stay in Yerushalayim. Oh, they were all upset, and sure enough, he walks away, starts smoking a cigarette. 3 minutes later, he puts it out, goes into his cab, pulls it into, these Israeli drivers, Mercedes cabs. There's a 7-passenger cab. There's a Sherut, which takes 7 people. And so these 7 people were in the cab, and the 7 people were supposed to be in the cab, and the guy puts in the car, closes whatever technology maybe you have at the time, since one shouldn't be driving with technology. And he looks in his rearview mirror, and he sees all 18 people in the cab. All 18 people in the cab. You cannot believe it. But no one's left outside. So you listen, the driver doesn't care. He's ready to go to Bnei Brak. So he just has to go. He's going. So he puts in drive, 85 miles an hour, of course, around the curve, and he's going to Bnei Brak. He's having a wonderful time, and he doesn't even think about the fact that he's driving a 7-passenger Sherut with 18 people in it. Anyway, so he goes to Bnei Brak, and as he gets into the city of Bnei Brak, and it's about an hour before Shabbos, about an hour's drive or so, and it's getting close to Shabbos, and sure enough, as he's going to the city where it's populated, there's a cop there, and he sees this cab full of people, and he pulls the cab over, and to make a long story short, he gives him a ticket for having 18 people in the car. And he gets a summons, you have to appear in court at a specific date. So the cab driver appears in court, and they have this little court there in, I don't know, wherever it is, in Yerushalayim, in Tel Aviv, and the judge says, okay, you had a stenographer there, the whole spiel, it's like a regular court. He says, tell me, so how do you plead? So the driver says, Your Honor, look at this ticket. It says I had 18 people in the cab. My cab is outside. You tell me how I could be guilty of having 18 people in a cab that only fit 7 people. He says, you got a good point. Let's go outside. So he takes the stenographer outside. He takes the court case, resumes outside, and they go to the cab. He checks the license plate number, and it's the same cab. Okay, so as people walking down the busy street, he stops and says, "Listen, this is a court case going on here." The judge says, and we have to do a quick little experiment. So please get into the car. So he stops people on their way, home or whatever they're going to, wherever they're going, and he fits 6, 7, 8. The 9th one's already, the elbow is already out the window. By the 10th, his head is on the glove compartment, and it's impossible. So he saw. So he said, okay, let's continue the court case back upstairs. They go back upstairs. The judge bangs the gavel. Not guilty. Okay? Not guilty. The guy smiles. He's very happy. The cab drivers are walking out the room. He said, whoa, wait a minute. Come over here for a minute. He comes over and he says, okay, you're not guilty. We've established that. But now between me and you, were there 18 people in the cab that day? He says, well, of course there was. He says, I understand. It's a different car? No, it wasn't a different car. So we had an experiment. I stopped the people. They could not, there's no way you had, how did that happen? He says, Your Honor, you missed the whole point. Okay, what you did is you took people on the way to Starbucks, had an appointment, they're on the way home, they're working out, they're going to different places with different agendas, and you try to get those people with different agendas to get into a cab that fits 7 people. You're not going to be able to do it. On that day, Your Honor, I had 18 Jews focused on one thing. We got to get home. We got to go to Bnei Brak. When you have people focused in one common direction, you can accomplish the world. And yes, I did. And the judge learned a very powerful lesson that day. A lesson Rabbi said that we have to learn. That you have no idea how strong, and actually it's from last week's parsha. When 5 chased 100, it's a 20-to-1 ratio. And how many Jews it takes, and 100 will chase 10,000. Well, you do the math, you're in honors math. Some of you in Valley Torah, right? Some of you took calculus, right? If 5 chases 100, okay, it's a 20-to-1 ratio. 100 chases 10,000, 100-to-1 ratio. So how do you figure that the math doesn't add up? And the Chazal say, you know why? Because it's different when you have 5 Jews doing something where you have 100. When you have 100 Jews focused in one direction, doing one thing common, with a common goal and a common vision, that's, Rabbi say, that's why Yichad Shom Yisrael Neged Ahar. That's this concept of not looking at yourself, and that's why you need humility as a prerequisite. Because you can't really be one. You can't see yourself as part of Klal Yisrael with this vision of working together, of caring about one another, of supporting one another without humility. If you're the center of your universe, there's no room. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to a Baal Gaiva, there is no room for me and you. So you have to get out of your own realm, not listen to that outside message where it says, numero uno counts, and making sure I got the fattest deal. How many, there are athletes like that, Lahavdil. There are athletes, right? They're willing to take less for their contract to play on a winner, and, they'll cut $5 million off the deal, or maybe sometimes they'll defer it, if they want to. But how many people like that? People who go to the team that will never have a chance of winning, I get extra $5 million a year. But you already have $20 million a year. And you're investing it, and if you're smart, it'll give you more money you can ever imagine. What difference is there really between a $100 million contract or $120 million contract when you're dealing with that kind of money? And now you maybe have a chance to work on a team that you can actually, it's about numero uno. It's about putting yourself first, and that's not the Torah's point of view. We put everybody else first, Rabbi say. I'll tell you one story I just heard this week. It's an incredible story. It's a Holocaust story, and it's about a woman who's a daughter of a survivor. And this woman had trouble having children. And for many, many years, she could not have a child. And of course, very often when you have, you take fertility pills, very often that first child, after you wait many, many years, it's not just one. This particular case, she was expecting 5 children. 5 children. And while she was pregnant, one night, she had a dream. And very often dreams, come and go, and we don't get moved by them, but certain dreams stick with you as being extremely powerful. And you get a sense that this is not a regular dream. And this woman had a dream that her mother, who had passed away, the Holocaust survivor, passed away. And the dream was very, very clear. And it said, 5 for 5. 5 for 5. And she wasn't a baseball fan. She didn't know what 5 for 5 meant. It didn't make sense that we're talking about somebody's going to go 5 for 5 in a game one day. And she just, these words stuck with her. And I'm not sure if she had the dream again and again, but the dream stayed with her. And she couldn't understand, what's my mother trying to say? And in the dream, she's talking back to Mom, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to say? 5 for 5, what does that mean? There was no response. This woman, life went on, and Baruch Hashem, she gave birth to 5 kids. And you can imagine, you can't imagine, I can't imagine either, what it is to have 5 infants born at one time in your house. And the pressure, and the diapers, and the feedings, and everything else that you have to deal with was overwhelming. And this woman, as much as she was in ecstasy, she was in such joy, because Baruch Hu blessed her with 5 kids. But it became very difficult. One day there's a knock on the door, and there's a certain woman who lived in that neighborhood who basically read the story and felt compelled to help out. She had time on her hands. Maybe I think she was a well-off lady, and she had time on her hands, and she wanted to do something. She says, what greater chesed could I do than help out this lady who had these 5 babies? And sure enough, she was incredible. She was so committed to this lady, and she helped her out, and she helped raise the kids, and she was just unbelievable in terms of what she did, and she gave this woman a chance to really live and to breathe like a normal person. Having 5 babies at one time could be overwhelming, and they didn't have a lot of money to get fancy help. So this woman literally was a lifesaver for them. And one day, the mother of the 5 kids asked this lady who was a lifesaver, who came in, literally, she doesn't know how she would have managed without her, and there was a cut or something, and she said, could you please go into the room, in my room over there in the bathroom, there's some Band-Aids or whatever. She asked her for something, and as she goes into the room, there's a picture in the room that she never saw before. I guess she didn't go into that part of the house or whatever. And she sees the picture, and she faints. She faints. And right away, you can imagine the tumult. She runs over. What happened? She revives the lady, and what's going on? What happened? He says, who's that woman in the picture? Well, that woman, she says, is my mother. I can't believe it. Why can't you believe? He says, let me tell you something, she says. I'm a Holocaust survivor. And I had a group of 5 girls. We were very close friends. And we were in the concentration camps. And for some reason we decided to really push the envelope and do something that we never really should have done. And we went into the kitchen whenever we should go, where the Nazis had food, whatever, and they stole some oil or some fat in order to light Hanukkah candles. This is, of course, taboo on many different levels. And literally would mean, if the Nazis would find them, immediate death. And they didn't care. They were ready to put their lives on the line to do the mitzvah, which itself is an incredible thing, but that's almost incidental to the story. And sure enough, as they were leaving, the Nazis saw them. And it was very late, and he didn't want to deal with them. Now he says, tomorrow we're going to deal with you, but they knew that was the last night that they were going to live. They had no chance. The next morning, they were taken out. All the Jews were going to be gathered together. They're going to say, this is what happens when you steal oil or fat from the kitchen, especially to do what a Jew should never do, and that's to light candles. And they would just be shot like Rachmana litzlan 6 million others in such horrific fashion. So they knew that their lives had a few hours left to live. And this woman is saying over this story to the mother of the 5 babies. And she says there was a woman in our area that was like a really special lady. She was like a leader. Everyone looked up to her. Everyone basically relied on her. Even the Nazis, when they wanted to get Jews to do something, they would talk to her because they knew everyone would follow her. And they said to her, this is what happened. You have to try to help us. We're going to die in a few hours. When the morning comes, the Nazis, they're gonna kill us. And you have to help us. You have to, please, can you do anything to save our lives? And she says, let me see what I can do. And sure enough, I don't know, that part of the story I'm not that familiar with, but she went out of her way. Obviously at the risk of her own life, and she ended up saving those 5 girls. And she says, I was one of those 5 girls, and I've always been thinking, what can I do to repay that lady for the incredible chesed she did for us. And now I find out that I volunteer at a totally random stranger, not knowing who she is, because I just saw some article about a woman giving birth to 5 kids. I come over and I help you and I become part of this family, and I feel so excited and I feel so good about myself. And now I realize that I'm actually helping the daughter of the woman who saved our lives. It was overwhelming. I was so shocked that I lost myself and I fainted. And this woman stopped and realized, oh my gosh. When my mother came to me in a dream, when she said 5 for 5, when she said to me those words, now I understand what they really mean. For the 5 neshamas, she was telling me that for the 5 neshamas that she saved, that she helped back in the concentration camps 15, 20 years earlier, I'm going to make sure you get that help. 5 for 5. And that lady's going to help 5 babies who were born to my daughter. But I said there are many, many types of stories like this. And you all have a common theme. When you extend yourself for somebody else, you don't know when it's going to get paid back. Many people, if they were told, oh, I helped so many people, and how come I don't have this, how come I don't have that? And if God would tell us, Chacham, you want it now? Or maybe you want it for your child or grandchild. Maybe they're going to be in an unbelievably difficult position and they're going to need some help. And I'm going to save this act of chesed to save your family 50 years down the line. Wouldn't we take it? We just don't understand. We don't fathom the power of the actus of one Jew helping and becoming selfless on behalf of another one. That's Vayichan Shom Yisrael Ne'er Ha'ar. You have to become like a midbar so that you can have an actus in Klal Yisrael. That's the third prerequisite. Rabbi say, we have really a unique opportunity. Really? Every single day, when we open these doors, and you walk through those doors, hopefully at about 7:45 every morning, and you start your day in a school of typically about 130 kids, and Vayisumer Fidim, you can approach that Gemara Shir with a level of intensity like you didn't have before. You can be like a midbar, not sort of be, I'm in, right? The guy, the guy who shows up, and even though he was late, and there's a few other guys, but they're freshmen, so even they're waiting already 20 minutes for the next game, but I'm a fancy junior, so, move out of here, and I'm taking over. No, I'm not taking over. You were here, you were first, you play. I'll wait my turn. That's Vayachnu B'Midbar. That's being like a desert. It's not about me. And finally, if you have that mentality and you are committed to Torah, what happens in the third level is Vayichan Shom Yisrael Ne'er Ha'ar. Let's work on ourselves to be those types of people. Let's be Zocher Be'ez Hashem to have that level of Vayichan Shom Yisrael, so that we'll have the ultimate simcha with B'yas HaMashiach Me'er.